This morning, we have the king back in the studio, Jbdanquah. He's a media, brands, culture, and tourism icon, and in the mold of a patriot. He joins me in the studio this morning. Kwesi, Moache.
Good morning, Mr. Akapo.
Good to have you here. I'm well, by God's grace.
No, I'm breaching. I'm sure now will come brofo, and many aji.
Oh, say about brofo de anka.
And I'm a catch him said, I mean,
what a brofo hene.
Me, you're not catching you super. Yeah, Muntiana. Thank you very much. Delighted to be united with you always.
It's a pleasure to have you here. You know, I was just following what you said back then to me in that interview. And what's interesting, another producer of a different show within this network, I was crossing the street a short while ago, and he started talking about the fact that, you know, Ben, look at us. We wake up at dawn, we're running around doing our work. How much do we have, you know,
to show for?
He was telling me about a problem he had and what it would take to resolve it, and the fact that he didn't have that. And he says, and so, some people in government, I mean, they have it, and yet some of them will later in life tell your children, say, oh, one mobra. And I was telling him, this man said this a long time ago with my brother Kafui Day on GTV. And here you are this morning. But let me just quickly ask you this. When you look at Ghana today, it's been a number of months since our last interaction.
Yep.
What's Ghana now? What do you see when you look at Ghana today?
When I look at Ghana today, I see a lot of talented youth who will be used by other nations to do the work of laborers. I see a lot of good old elders who have served their nation well and should step aside for young people and middle-aged people to take over from them. And I see a Ghana where we have some really competent people who have served well but did not have a succession plan. So they do not see with clarity who they can hand over the reins of power to. And that maybe is actually an act of selfishness, because if you haven't trained people to take over from you, then you can stay forever. And then I see a Ghana of vast natural resources, but very limited mental resources in those who are entrusted with authority, with those who are clothed with power to lead. I see a Ghana where the shepherd is so selfish that every day he goes out with the sheep, he sells some of the sheep quietly and does not let the owners know. The owners are the people of Ghana. The shepherds are those elected and appointed to serve and lead. And who they are selling us to is foreigners who are buying everything of ours for cheap. But now they have turned away from even selling to the foreigners so that some profit will come to the country, whatever little there is in it. They're selling the nation to themselves. And I speak not of other nations. I speak not of Kenya. I speak not of Nigeria, where the president has seen that the uprising in Kenya is coming close to his place. So now he says he's going to abolish the office of the first lady, and he's going to reduce the size of government. And I look at this nation of ours, and I look at China, where I'm studying and researching at the moment. And China has 20 ministers, and this nation of ours has close to 126 ministers, plus deputy ministers, plus special assistants and special advisors. And I ask myself, do we have a leader? Do we have leaders?
Do we?
No, we don't.
We don't?
Each one for himself, God for us all.
We have a president, we have a president, we have a vice president, we have ministers in cabinet, we have ministers of state, members of parliament.
For 60 cedis in Tema. I heard Bernard Avle this morning. He says he bought his for 70 cedis.
You bought a tuber of yam for 60 cedis?
Well, unless you're telling me my personal chef is a liar.
The last projection we made, I mean, one was going for about 30 cedis.
Yes, so 60 cedis.
60 cedis.
Yes, and I feel very bad because when I go abroad and work abroad, I get paid in foreign currency. Well, that is not to say when I come, I want the foreign currency to be so high in value that the cedi is nearly worthless. I've come home and I've seen the foreign currency, dollars go from 14 something to 15 something and now close to 16. And I'm thinking, okay, some of us are fortunate enough to go and work elsewhere and come back home. What about the majority of people who may even work
How many Ghanaians are able
harder
to do
than
that?
us, who may even be smarter than the people who have elected and appointed? How do they survive? So where is the leadership? Where is the leadership? And especially in a nation where some people have sat down to craft a document, which I initially said, oh, this is just stupidity on steroids. It is just the imaginings of the iniquitous, inebriated people who are just talking hogwash.
You're talking about the Jbdanquah document?
A Jbdanquah document. And then I have looked closely over 3.5 years, and I have seen everything they have stated in that document happening. And if you will permit me, I want to read just the introduction of that document. Because like I said, in the beginning, I said this is hogwash, the imaginings of a fool. But right now, I see it is the plan of the plunderers. It says, to our future, made up of the present and the unborn, for whom this will of a nation is prepared. To our foremost king, Oforipenyin, the progenies spread across this world, for whom and to whom alone this sacred document is prepared. As the heirs of Nana Pianin, Kwaframa, Nana Kuntun Kununku, and Oforipenyin, our people were never defeated in the wars of old. Such bloody idiots. We were nobody's subjects, and yet after 1957, we were made to live in the shadows of the descendants of people who never defeated us in war, while the Asante kingdom was uplifted to put us in the shade. In relatively recent times, the struggles and works of Jbdanquah to restore Ochimai to its original glory were thwarted, but he fought bravely to the end. And they continue. With the arrival of Nana Jbdanquah Akufo-Addo, I added the full name because
it
Nana
says
here.
only Nana there, but
Yes,
you're adding.
yeah, exactly. I've added that. That's why I'm stating it. We see the rebirth of a second Jbdanquah who has come to the rescue. Fully cognizant that we are currently part of the modern nation of Ghana, the name of which was originally proposed by the illustrious son of Oforipenyin, Lie. Jbdanquah wanted Ghana to be called Akan land. He is not the one who proposed the name Ghana. Let's get the facts right. You can glorify your father, but if your father was a drunk, you cannot say he's the archbishop. No. Glorify your father for the good things he has done. He's helped a few school children. He has married more women than, necessary because maybe the women were cheap in that area or things were so hard for everybody.
I think we can say that without deliberating.
But it's annoying.
Has his own, he's
it's
contributed his bit.
It's annoying. But then you don't try and give the man credit for what he didn't do.
But don't take away from him either.
No. You should take away what is not his due. My father is not the creator of culture and tourism in Ghana. My father just had a small hotel and a club and promoted culture and tourism. I cannot come and say, oh, he created culture and tourism in Ghana. No. None, and they go on. And aware that it is currently made up of other diverse peoples, we have to assert our old selves and ensure that we no longer continue to live in the shadows of other kings and people whose forebears we defeated in wars. In spite of our tremendous contribution to this Ghana entity, Ochimai has not been credited with the appropriate awe and grandeur that we rightly deserve in recent times. Such stupidity. And the contents of this document is a plan, a strategy for the plunder of Ghana. Name all the presidents of Ghana whose family was so stupid, acted like imbeciles, that they could sit and plan that, let us rob the nation. Now, when we go straight into this document later, I will show you what is happening in Ghana. And the fact that they can even name men of God. Otabil is named in there. That if he doesn't follow their plan, they will expose him and the women that he has been with, and they will deprive him of his following in church. It's all in the document. What stupidity. And we are sitting there as a nation. We have prosecutors, magistrates, judges, a police system, and you're seeing that the contents of this thing is happening. And you're sitting there, twiddling your thumbs, scratching your balls, tickling your armpits and laughing.
It's morning television. Let's season what we're saying.
The plunder of state is real.
Yeah.
And we cannot pretend we do not see it.
And we are
The plunder of state is real.
We are by no means saying that whatever name dropping, whatever names have been mentioned and churches and all of that, we are not.
They are in the document.
We are not the author of this document. It's merely from that document.
From the document.
Reading. So it's not something that we personally are saying.
And not a single name in that document has stepped up to say, no, I am not part of this folly, not part of this greed, not part of this stupidity, not part of this treachery. This is sabotage.
Let me read another portion.
This is sabotage of state.
Let me add this portion. It says, although the Asante group within the current MPP is gearing itself to take over the party after the next tenure in 2024, it would be ideal if we could work to bypass them in 2024. With hard work, we could work to pass the mantle over to a non-Akan person, preferably from the north, under whose presidency we could secure the maturity of our takeover project. This thing has been around.
No matter what hard work Bawumia and his team may have done, this document positions him as a stooge.
Because this is circa 2020.
You read it back then. I read it back then. But like I said, I just thought these were musings of a fool, musings of a madman. But now, over 3.5 years, looking at what is going on in this country, I see the state plunder is real. Look, I saw Nana Komia on TV the other day. When I used to be advertising manager at ABC, Nana Komia used to work for Kofi Bakna. Kofi Bakna had a small advertising agency called Focal Point. So Nana Komia used to come to my office. My boss was BB Mahama, and whenever it was to do with advertising, they came to me. And that is where we struck a friendship. So we have a mild brotherhood, if I may call it so. And I listened to him being interviewed by Johnny Hughes. Now, you know that in our Constitution, the works of state departments, state ministries, departments, and agencies must inure to the benefit of other state ministries, departments, and agencies. That is not to say we mustn't help the private sector. But where we have a state facility that does the same work commendably, you don't snatch the work from the state and give it to a private person. So Johnny Hughes asked Nana Komia a very nice question. And I like Nana Komia as a person. But that doesn't mean if you do wrong, I can say it. You're working for a state enterprise that you make no profit in. So Johnny Hughes says, who are the insurers of your vehicles? And you can see him crestfallen. Admit enterprise insurance. Enterprise insurance is also stated in the document.
And we all know what their ties are.
They are essentially replacing SIC. So where we have put a state department or ministry or agency or facility in place where the benefit will accrue directly to the state, you take it away and give it to a private enterprise who may pay his corporation tax and pay his other taxes, but the key benefits accrue to the owners of that business. And you are working for the state, appointed by the president. Is the chief of staff working? Samia Wuku also takes a GBC contract away from them and gives it to a private station. In fact, when I said it on GTV, then the GTV people were even afraid because the Director General feels maybe if you complain, he might lose his job.
Which contract for clarity are you speaking of?
The lottery draw.
Oh, I see.
See, the simple thing about our enterprise with this media and culture is when a client gives you a job, they give you a brief. And if they have any specifics, they put it in the brief. And based on that brief, we bring proposals, you agree, and we go ahead. Now you have deprived the state enterprise of income and you've given it to a private business. I don't want to name the private business.
No, please don't. I will not even want
my
you to
point is, why do we call some of our brothers and sisters, commoners like us, elevate them into positions of authority, and then all of a sudden they feel they are clothed in so much authority that they can thumb their noses at the whole nation and do whatever they want and get away with it because either the president is unconcerned or the people close to him are unconcerned, or it is all part of the plunderous scheme.
Speaking of a plunderous scheme, I would like to read the next 2 paragraphs very quickly. It says, when we have finally captured the command and control sectors of the country for our private use, we would then be in a better position to wield the necessary political and economic muscle to manage the destiny of this country under the reign of the House of Ofori-Pening.
And it continues.
I will repeat that and continue in the next paragraph. Don't worry.
Go on then.
When we have finally captured the command and control sectors of the country for our private use, we would then be in a better position to wield the necessary political and economic muscle to manage the destiny of this country under the reign of the House of Oforipini.
Such nonsense.
To be specific, we need to strengthen our efforts to control the mineral resources as well as the electricity and water institutions. The success of this project depends on the way in which we, for the time being, control the judiciary and the press.
Well, you've stated it clearly. You know, I know that the journalists do not want to be participants in the argument. A lot of them want to be sitting on the fence and acting as though they were referees. But our journalism needs to be ethical, and I'm happy that you have chosen to be an ethical journalist, especially over the last 2 years. We must be able to see what is right and say, I love you, but this is right, and I will support you. And what is wrong and say, I love you, and this is wrong, so I will not support you. 2 days ago, a leading member of the NPP spoke to me. He says, Kwesi, why are you asking me questions about this 34.9 million deal that has been given to the president's daughter? And I said, I'm asking you.
But hold it there.
Yep.
Hold it there.
Yep. Go on then.
The bit about given to the president's daughter.
Yep.
We do know that she has some linkages to someone who has got the contract.
See,
just for clarity.
I stopped beating about the bush.
Just for clarity.
Me asantini don't know me money in chain. Me bo don't know na pampum. Me mo don't know in chain. Me bo don't know na pampum. If I register a business and I appoint Benjamin because of your knowledge and your chutzpah to run the business, the profits of the business accrue to me. If my partner registers a business, same way the profits of the business accrue to us. So when I asked that, and then he asked that question, I said, I'm not asking because it's the president's daughter. I want them to prosper. They deserve to prosper. However, when the Auditor General, not Domelevo, the favorite of the president, a retired person brought back to serve as Auditor General, because to be fair, the whole of Ghana, auditors are so incompetent that none of those who has reached pension age is qualified to serve as Auditor General by this appointment of the president, because that's the subliminal meaning. When that Auditor General has stated with clarity that this company is getting paid to do nada, they don't have the personnel, they don't have the expertise. Way back in 2021. So please, don't give them any work. Maybe the Auditor General made that statement at the time when he didn't know the owners of the company. But eventually, do you know what happened? All the other people who could actually service the ambulance lost their contract or ability to work with those ambulances, and everything was given to this one company. What nation are we running? So, look, I really want to ask this simple question, because some of the things my dad says, because he, I want to ask, are you coaching your children in thievery and plunder of state resources? Or are you investing in your children with earnings from your own honest labor? Are you personally stealing national resources for your children to ensure that the many other children all over Ghana whose parents toil to produce for Ghana stay in poverty, squalor, and misery, so that they will have no choice but to look up to you and beg you for droppings off your table, and look up to your children and beg them for their daily bread, and look up to your accomplices and go to them begging to sell their labor? What is all this selfishness, greed, and state plunder? These are questions we ask of the soon-to-be ex-president Akufo-Addo and all his ministers and all his appointees. We ask this of our rich but battered, plundered, demotivated, impoverished, shackled with borrowing, and silenced country Ghana. The wise are not courageous. The truthful are fearful, that their businesses will fail. Where are the wise, truthful, and courageous of this land? Because if you can say it against CPP, if you can say it against NDC, I don't see why you can't say it when it is worse another Nana Akufo-Addo's MPP. Ghana. What's wrong with you? Look at Kenya. And then look at what the president in Nigeria is now saying. All of a sudden, he has realized that, oh, we have too many state appointees. We need to reduce them. What are we doing with some 120 ministers, really? And what are we doing with their deputy ministers?
Are you not a member of the MPP?
Me?
Yeah.
I refuse to be a member of any party. I told you this some time ago off air, and I'll remind you. Frank,
but you have many friends in the MPP.
I have friends and brothers in MPP. I have friends and brothers in NDC. My uncle PV Obeng worked with PNDC and worked with NDC.
Right.
My uncle Nana Mwakutufo works with the MPP and has written Ghana's budget for over 15 years. Knowledgeable family, humble family. We try and work honestly to earn our income. And some people will say, oh, no, I saw somebody saying on social media, because my food was being served, and this lady offered to take my food down for me, and I wanted some soup, to take my diabetes medicine. So when I asked for soup, somebody's written there, who is he that somebody is carrying his plate? Some choose to serve others, not because they are thieves, but because they speak the truth for Ghana.
Hold it right there. I just want to conclude on this Jbdanquah document and
there's
something else that, I mean, if we wanted to talk, we could have an entire hour talking about that alone. But it's a document out there, and I guess we have to really look at what it says and how some of the things are panning out. Like I read, even about a non-Asante, a northerner taking over the party after Nana Jbdanquah Akufo-Addo. But that's, I mean, we are not saying these things.
Can I take this quickly?
The document says it. But let me just do this, because I want to segue into what Kweku Kwarteng in recent times has said, and then we'll conclude on this matter and move on. The last portion of the foreword has this to say, and then we'll just move on. We conclude with a word of caution. Until we have secured the critical sectors under our control, we should minimize the danger of obvious acts of individual corruption in order not to alienate the rest of the population. We must focus on the ultimate goal. We must seek first the economic and financial levers, and all others will follow eventually. There's a play on the Bible there. Seek first the kingdom of, God, and everything else will
These
follow.
people are delusional.
But then...
These people should be locked up and the key thrown away.
Right.
People who write this nonsense are alive only because it is illegal to shoot them too.
Then you
you
look at the Breaking the Aid document as published by Kweku Kwarteng, or put out by Kweku Kwarteng on the 25th, dated the 25th of July. I can't go through that document, but there's a portion that really got me interested. It says, we always offer higher interest to lenders, borrow more. He's talking about the malaise of our country. We always offer higher interest to lenders, borrow more, use a part to repay previous debts, and the rest to pay for the current year's overspending. So we have been running our country's economy like a Ponzi scheme. We have been running our country's economy like a Ponzi scheme.
They acknowledge that themselves.
The economy is struggling today because lenders are now refusing to lend to us. It is just like a Ponzi scheme going into crisis once people stop depositing their money with them. Then he enumerates a number of things to be done. That portion startled me. Kweku Kwarteng, his gravitas,
he has no
role
gravitas.
Within his party. Within his party. Within his party. Within the MPP. In Parliament.
We are pesamenkuminyao o maye japade wo hoyi ya tafre ho siesie ejama echirimma ma wo mo nso betoa so ye ne yie ehyemu den ya hyemu ma yen resa ye mene ye ninkaso. Look, just yesterday a dear younger brother of mine lost his mother. He said, Kwesi, whatever money I have, I will spend to save my mother. A very good woman. Auntie Kaba of Community 8 in Tema, 2 houses away from our property, Jatokrom Hotel. She passed away. Good woman. Sika ben na nka Kofi Aban. Osi onyim fa nhwe ne maame. Nso Nyankopon afrɛ no. Adan na ye pre ye fumu sey. So you are saying you are doing all this and knowing full well that there are times when you go to Kolebu, the machines that the cancerous people with cancer go to use, they break down. There are only 2 of them. They break down. And then people cannot even come for their treatment. So the cancer gets aggressive. And all you are doing is plundering state resources because you want Ghana to be controlled by the House of Oforipenyi. Now, Kwame Nkrumah mpo a oje fa ohudie emma Ghana no chiro mwasem we. And ask yourself, they be listen. Why don't look, stupid is in the dictionary for a reason.
What the TV so? A man for a show.
I was saying, no quarry.
And somebody be a walking canoe.
Massa,
if
you're not at it, yes, what it qua. Yankasa, who you penya, ye ferry when you catch us or at it qua. And Yana Nebeka, the Chiam in Ebeka. If you say Sabuta Frache,
but they can say cheaper now.
Oh, Maya Sabuta Frache. Yan to mean show being conscious or ye crow for no. Near catch and say, or ye Omokan sample. Or you're astute businessman. What are you crom for? Are you crom for? Benny Madoff. No, you're crom for. Why don't they was saying? No, you're crom for. Yeah, man, 120 years in prison. Ne baba committed suicide. What we are my sikama unkwa one man unkwa we bushia for. It's your mining kind yan den. Go to the banking sector. Mother. Control of the mother is essential to control the industry. So far, the head of the mother and its first deputy are strongly aligned to our cause. They are from our compound, and we perceive no threat from these 2. The second deputy appeases the gender advocates and is also not a source of discomfort. In this vein, there is no need for changes in those places. And see, say Bank of Ghana penny no okobo besia bone na ni nyinara no sebe ohwe na ode mamunko na mudi. Na sebe otafracha wonko an wo rekoto a wonko an wo kochima na pa ma otutwitwa. Okay, so I'm not saying don't say. No, truth has to be told because every Ghanaian child must read this document and realize the thieves and plunderers that we have given the positions of authority. Thieves and plunderers.
The Ochehene.
I am a young person who do before Tonsuatoso.
Right.
It's your hin and I said.
There's recent rhetoric. Hold on. Hold on.
There is no big 6 in Ghana. Where is the big 6? Write everyone's achievements.
Hold for me. Let me
party. Their friend is saying.
Let me manage.
Near Debbie, near Odini party. Now I must say big 6 will be a friend is saying. Do you remember his name?
Pagrant. The UGCC.
Pagrant.
The UGCC.
Okay. You didn't see to a party. First deputy, your friend is saying.
Pagrant himself was not even.
It's when say big 6. It is a lie. Anybody alate manche, alata manche na ekoko neko. Na neko akoko yin ya kwachi nkrofo de bechi more politics ni bi. Na mo dia mo so ya chi Africa Kwame Nkrumah dia. Na che yenso yenfe ho bata Kwame Nkrumah na yanka say big 6. What achievement ni dia?
But you know, in recent times, I mean, there's been reaction from Oforipenyi Field. They say this is all hogwash. It's nothing.
So why is it that the things in it are happening? Is it by chance? Adangana from Obia Ada Madana. Mumadie wo madana mumpenyimfo no so madana. Is the whole country comatose?
Just linking to
What's wrong with us?
Just linking to that. And
I was reading the banking side. Go there and see. And then those who are their biological children and those who are their adopted children. And I'm looking, biological children, these are banks in which we should have controlling interest. The collapse of local banks with ties to the opposition NDC and other rival political factions during the cleanup operations undertaken by the mother was a resounding success. Oh, GN Bank. And tonight I said, Then it goes on. It facilitated the flow of substantial financial resources into our war fund through backflow of some of the advertised cleanup costs.
Okay, so
These have happened in Ghana. Tell me it's not true.
KKD, we know what is in the
Masa
document.
we can talk about.
We can talk. No, you know
Please.
You can talk.
Everybody should be outraged about this hogwash.
I agree. The snit bit and everything that has happened. So I want to find out, what then do we do? You're pointing to the malaise. You're pointing to the problem.
You have to.
What do we do?
You do problem definition. Then after definition of the problem, then you look at all the sources where you can get some wisdom and knowledge from and put them together to proffer your solution. The solution is this. Number one, you should not stand to seek to be elected if you cannot prosecute those who have done harm to the motherland. So let me give you a good example. Let's say Atta Mills of blessed memory is dead and gone. Kwame Nkrumah, dead and gone. Ike Achampong, killed. Akufu, killed. Afrifa, killed. If you say they have done wrong, you should prosecute them. If you don't prosecute them, then you are liar, pants on fire. You only lied to the populace to seek to gain power. And when you prosecute them, it should be in a court of competent jurisdiction. And sadly, some people think they can load the courts. And look, there is nobody who has completed JSS in Ghana who cannot understand loading the courts. If they can't understand it, then it means the education in Ghana is really, really bad. Now, the truth is, if you appoint a judge, you haven't done them a favor. They have worked to earn their appointment. Now, after appointing that judge, it's like building a police station. It doesn't mean that when you kill somebody, you will not be arrested and sent to that police station. So I see people eager to build police stations. Masa, that's what it is. So let us say this state of Ghana, not a Danse family or Asante family or Krobo family, this big state of Ghana with 6 major ethnic groups and all its subsets within each of the 6 major ethnic groups. We must ensure that every one of our sons who plunders the state is held accountable, because these people are stealing the future of other people's children. That is the solution. So if you say Mahama, Mahama is the last president, right? The last one before Nanado. Everything you claimed about Mahama, if you haven't taken it to court, then you are liars. At least go to court and say, oh, we didn't have enough evidence. But if you cannot take it to court because you don't have prima facie evidence to go and prosecute the man, then you lied to the people of Ghana just to get into power. And in the same way, all those campaigning now, whether it's Dr. Ni Amudakon, whether it's Samankra, whether it's Nana Kwame Bediakon, whether it's Odike, Kofi Apalu, whether any of them, and those who are just there to support parties that are paying their bills, and former President Mahama, whatever you say is corruption being committed by your opponent, you must prosecute. Why can't you do it within your first 2 years of being in government? Why can't you? All you do is blow hot air, get into power, and do worse. For all the metrics, Nana Akufo-Addo's 7 years and counting is the worst thievery and plunder ever in the history of my motherland, Ghana. If you're not sure, call all the civil society groups and you're very good at graphs. Let them help you do the graphs and do the statistics. So even the banking cleanup exercise, which has crippled Kofi Amoaben, crippled Dufour, crippled all the others, the money you claim you use for cleaning up the banks is multiples of the money you could have used to say we are saving the banks and we are taking 50% shares in these banks and giving these 50% shares to the state.
We spent over 20 billion on that enterprise.
So really, how else can I call you? What else do I say?
Let me just
one bed to lay on, 2 roofing sheets over your head, a way to get to work and back. Make sure your family is fed, but you want to make other people suffer. So you only safeguard your children.
But if you read that document...
And your children's children. And your children's children's children.
Exactly. It's about securing generational wealth.
Why?
Whatever truth there is. But let me...
Let me bring you back.
Right. Let me bring you back.
What kind of nonsense is that?
Let me bring you back to SNIT, because our pensions are also on the line. It's not just on the back of the SNIT Rock City bid, or maybe we can go into the past and look at the database bid we spent so much on. But the point, though, is our pensions. Recently, we had a pensions dialogue, national pensions dialogue.
From beginning to end.
You did. What do you make of the state of our pensions? Is there hope? I'm sure you also listen to Joe Poku, the chief actuary at SNIT. What's your reaction?
Why is it that all our investments, contributors' investments, because that's essentially what it is, are not published for every contributor to know? That's the first question. And it was asked in your thing. We should know. Kofi Bosompim was Afomafo. I met him, I think, on a Sunday at the airport. When I used to manage private medical insurance in the city of London, I had 65 accounts I was managing, and Moscow Narodny Bank was one of them, Deutsche Bank was one of them. His office, where he worked, because he also worked in the corporate world, was just like less than 100 meters from my office where I worked. I worked for Gissings Consultancy, the third biggest broker for private medical insurance in England at the time. I met him and I said, Nakofi, I said, when I hotel see. And he jokingly said, jokingly. And then the next morning, I had him on CTFM. So I was very keen to hear what he had to say. And there he was, trying to defend the sale of the hotels. It broke my heart. Broke my heart. Now that the board has recognized that they were doing wrong, they have pulled back. Or they haven't recognized they were doing wrong. Have they? Did they accept it in your dialogue? I want to know.
The board of SNIT?
Yep.
I don't think any acknowledgement of wrongdoing has been established.
So why have they stopped?
In fact, you do recall that the NPRA, per the Minister for Employment and Labour Relations, had given their nod eventually, which the minister communicated in Parliament. So I don't know about...
So the board doesn't think it's wrong, but they think they should stop. Why? I'm asking you. So Oforiatta had a brain fart once. He's a minister in government, appointed by the president, elected by his people. He has a right to serve his constituency, and he has a right to help make sure that a certain sector of our economy is run properly. He just had a brain fart, and because of that, we stopped running all our toll booths. Okay, now they say, we want to bring back the toll booths. Is there an acceptance of wrong previously? Are we dealing with...
Those members of the MPP we've spoken here have said, no, there's no acknowledgement of... I mean, it's a tax tool until we can... we can use it. But mind you, the Vice President has said that if he becomes president, the e-levy will go. So... Well.
Is he part of this government or not? Because sometimes I listen to him and I feel very sad because I'm like... Is he part of this government or not? Can you answer the question?
The president said, if you recall, the last State of the Nation address, he said...
Don't answer me like a politician.
No.
It's a yes or no.
I'm referencing you.
It's a yes or no.
He said, the buck stops with me, quoting him. That's what he said. What do you think?
Then sack everybody and run the whole country.
But at the same time, the same vice president will tell you that there are 22 plus policies that I brought to bear. And so you ask, if you're able to execute...
So you have no policy. And I don't know who's a speech writer, but the first time I heard him say, I'm like a driver's mate, I was so crestfallen. Because if he had had any conversation with an aplanke, the aplanke would have told him, Masa, asama wo kan die, sebe. Wadwen wo form kiti krampwa won kasasa. Like A+ said to somebody recently on TV, Or so you'll be doing akoko clitoris.
KKD.
But why do you go and say something like,
No.
Let's go forward.
Wait, that body part you just mentioned, please.
So delete
please withdraw it. Withdraw it.
Withdrawn.
Okay, thank you.
So my point is, why do you, seeking to lead a nation, because you know you need to pull yourself away from the policies of the very government you serve, now say, I was merely a driver's mate? Why? So who are we really voting for?
And that's the question. Because
who are we really voting for? And based on this document, a vote for Bawumia is a vote for the stooge of the people who have written this document. That's what it is. A vote for Bawumia is a vote for the stooge of the people who have written this document. Do you think people just want to find somebody who they are not sure how they earn their income or what they do for a profession or what they did with regards to learning and say, okay, listen, you all come and stand for president because the way it's going, the so-called learned people are hopeless and helpless? But that is what is happening in Ghana now.
Let me avert your attention. I don't know whether you've seen the latest Afrobarometer report, which talks about declining.
I stop looking at those things because it depresses me.
It tells you that over 80% of people, Ghanaians, feel the country is not headed in the right direction. You look at the level of tolerance for democracy or acceptance of democracy, it's dwindling. Across the sub-region and even in Africa.
Rule. I remember military rule. My father's
we are on the same page.
Were seized.
We have seen wars, and not just in Ghana. So I always tell people, careful what you wish for. Military rule or incursions of the military in politics is a no, 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 no. But, like Kweku Kwarteng points out in his own document, if you push the people far enough, and they have their backs against the wall in a cul-de-sac, but
that's
so what do you make of the state of governance?
The judiciary must be up and doing. Look, we talked about Montesquieu the other day. The truth is, there is a reason why there are 4 estates of the realm. You're doing the 4th one. Not only you. There are some people who are up and doing, who are thinking and speaking on issues. And there are many also who are just humoring the nation and tickling us so we laugh because there is so much depression that if we don't have all these bloggers just doing their stuff and doing their funny stuff, people will just die of depression. But there's the judiciary. Why wouldn't the judiciary say, look, this is not what we want of this nation. So if you have done this and you are brought before us, it doesn't matter if you were part of the appointing authority. We will put you away. And then there's the legislature. You know, I was listening to Jbdanquah Blackwell, who I think is doing a sterling job in Parliament for the people of Ghana, not just his constituency. Now, imagine if only half of the members of Parliament would pick up an issue of corruption and follow it through and publish it on both sides of the House. So whatever anybody has done, whether it's in your party or some other party, so we can take the plunderers, the selfish, the greedy, and the imbeciles out of the system, we will have better governance. And then there's the presidency, the appointing authority. Now, interestingly, the ministers are no longer part of the legislature. And you know why? Because once you are appointed as a minister, you serve at the pleasure and direction of the president. That is not what an MP does. And that is why I think this whole idea of selecting your ministers from Parliament is an issue. So people are dancing so they can catch the eye of the president so they can be made a minister. And once they're made a minister, they lose their ability to criticize any thievery in government. Show me any minister who has criticized thievery whilst their government was in power. Show me one from Kwame Nkrumah's time to date. So the lessons we need to learn are clear in our daily lives, that everything that we have seen to be egregious, everything that we have seen to be harmful to the state of this nation, we must find a way to eschew. But not only eschew, we must not merely fire the thieves, we must prosecute the thieves. And if they are found guilty, We must confiscate whatever they have stolen, and we must put them away, and we must let it be known that this is a shameful act. In China, when you steal from the nation in public office, they kill you. In Japan, when you steal from the state in public office, you kill yourself. In Ghana, when you commit a Sicilia Dapa, you are told you are the darling of the president and you walk free. And if you're not careful in the next government, you may be made an ambassador. And you know the benefits of an ambassador. Let me explain that too. Because when people are made ambassador, especially when they don't have a portfolio, that's also confusing. Because the benefits of an ambassador is such that when he commits a crime in his country or elsewhere, you do not prosecute him, he just walks free. And when he carries money, whether it's fair or foul earned money, and he travels anywhere with it, whether you've stolen from your people like baby Dog Duvalier and his father, Papa Dog Duvalier, did in Haiti, when you travel as an ambassador, nobody stops to check the money you're traveling with. So I'm wondering, how many ambassadors have become assigns of this corrupt government of Jbdanquah Akufo-Addo, Nana Jbdanquah Akufo-Addo, and his assigns around him, who may be taking the finances of state outside this country?
It reminds me of our conversation some time back on Sikam Pedide and your rendition, L'Agent n'a pas de deux.
Sikani Pampai.
Okay, but on the Sicilia Dapa bit, you know, in our jurisdiction, you are innocent until proven guilty.
Exactly.
As of now.
Exactly.
Whether from the OSP
because
or whatever.
She hasn't been prosecuted.
She's not been declared guilty.
Because she hasn't been prosecuted.
Let's not declare her guilty. This is not a court.
Have you heard of the guy? Now, let me remind you of something. It's going live on social media right now. A U.S. soldier, white guy, shot and killed the son of an honest serving citizen of the United States of America. Everybody says, no, I do not like vengeance, but some vengeance is sweet. The man has lost his son. There's nothing he can do about it. The state is doing nothing about it. They are laughing at him. So he packed ammunition. He packed the gun. And he went to the son's daughter's school at her prom and shot her too. Is it poetic justice? He's a criminal. The policeman was never considered a criminal. There will come a point in time when if the judges, those who have become corrupt, will not commit those who are their paymasters, the people will rise. And the wrath of the people who have nothing to lose must be feared by every thief and plunderer.
Mapping the way forward now, I mean, it's poignant when you listen to Sophia Akufo, for example, former Chief Justice.
Can you put her stuff on TV? I want people to see what she said. I'm sure you have
I have it. I'll read. In terms of the SNIT deal, she says, we run down state institutions
intentionally
so we can give out sweetheart deals to ourselves as politicians.
Exactly.
And distribute among ourselves. She also says, I don't see hope in the eyes of young people in Ghana. Why I'm bringing especially this forward, I go out there, I see a lot of young people. I don't know whether you've noticed, but if you care to, sometimes I
don't go out there to see them. They come to me.
I deliberately decide not to drive and go around town. Sometimes it's interesting. A lot of our graduates, and it's not to denigrate that work, but you see, there's unemployment and there's underemployment. Underemployment is when you're trained, for example, to be an architect. You can't find work as an architect.
We are the last one.
So you're doing something else.
Underemployment and denial of employment.
Right. So that is Sophia Akufo on our screens. SNIT has run down its hotels to reduce their value so they can do sweetheart deals. They can accuse me of defamation, but I don't care. That's Sophia Akufo.
And I want to add to that. Sophia Akufo has said it beautifully. She's a good woman. You know, you can be part of an organization because she was part of government. But when you see all the things that are wrong in government, and because of your conditions of service, you're not able to speak, on the day you are out of government, after you have spoken for years to people in government, you too must speak. I am proud that I spoke over 2 years ago. And I'm even proud, I wear it as a badge of honor, that GBC banned me from speaking because I condemned the thieves who who were taking Ghana to borrow because for every $100 million they borrowed on behalf of Ghana, they made $9.8 million. And I gave the good example to some commoners in a chop bar in Tema. I said, "So what? And now yaya manager, and now once we are so on the fufu or chop bar. Nandi pana or fufu or chop bar no. One manager no was a man a contract. Say one ma and now would draw a paia. Near over fufu no sa supplier and cabeding. On your bra, and come a papa would draw no woman by heart. And you know, there are people who are benefiting from the wars of Ghana. All this borrowing, what have we got to show for it?
Okay.
What are we going to do?
So to conclude the conversation, there are two big things I want
Madame
to
Sophia Kufu. We need more of our elders to speak up. But I do not wait for no chief, for no pastor, for nobody to speak up. I'm the pastor of my household. I'm the president of my family. If others will not speak, I will speak up. And one of them said something to me recently. A good friend of mine in the MPP. Kwesi, be careful, oh. Says, yeah, no. Kroma, we need you maybe anye. Internet also kwa bridge ko man. And I'm saying, me pesika ano kware wo ho. Esen krono de. Ese ni nyina wo de tade ye. But me da sumdiem. And so these people will say, be careful of the toes you step on today, because they can be connected to the ass you have to kiss tomorrow. I will never kiss the ass of thieves.
Some people say you are grieved because maybe some expectations you have.
I have no expectations.
Personal expectations.
No, of who?
To get deals. You are not getting them, and that is why you are grieved.
I don't even bid for any of the work. So what deal are you talking about?
You've never put in a bid for any contract?
For which one? Never. Which one?
Okay.
There's enough work in the private sector. And Nanado said it. Those who want to work in my government, you know, must have their hands clean, because in my government you can't make any money. So if you want to make money, go to the private sector.
Our time is up. Let me just wrap these two things up with you. One, the alternative. What are we looking at? You know why it's scary for me? President Akufo-Addo told us, under my government, you will not come and this if you want to enrich yourself. The former president, Mahama, he's been saying that in my next administration, if you make me president, I will not allow anybody, and I'll prosecute those on the other side as well, including my own. Recently, in Tamale, when they launched their campaign, he said something similar. You look at an Alan Chemating, you look at all these other figures. Alan has been in government before. On the other side, can we trust them? And the final thing I want you to look at, Napo, because you brought it up at a point. Napo, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh as running mate, and his stance on Nkrumah, which now he's apologized for. Those two,
once
and then we're going.
Apologized for, let's move away from that. But you see, future behavior is predicted by past behavior. Has anybody apologized for anything? I saw that, you know, because I follow governance seriously. I've done so since the PNDC days. I saw President Mahama sack a lady who says, I want to make $1 million. Some say it was an unfair sacking.
Victoria Hammer.
I think it's a fair sacking. So, well, you may think it, but the fact that you can express it, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. I saw President Mahama, I think 7 September 2023, the National Service Secretariat turned 50. So they're going to be 51 now. He placed somebody there to lead the place. And when there was corruption there, in his government, he prosecuted him and put him away.
You're talking of Abu Gapele?
Yep. And then I saw that President Kufuor, I don't know if he prosecuted any of his people, but he looked at the previous government and pronouncements he had made about the corruption in the previous government. And he prosecuted some people, and some went to jail. Some fairly, some unfairly. But if I look at the Nanado government and I look at the corruption, the selfishness, the greed, the unethical behavior, and I don't see him call anyone to order, my question is, does his whole organization, the MPP, support what he's doing?
Right.
So as I stand, MPP is nowhere near anything that anything in my home, dog, cat, or rat can vote for. We will look at everybody else but the MPP. Because especially with this plan of the plunderers and the fact that whoever they are putting in place are just their assigns and dummies, I don't see how anybody with a right conscience and a love for this country of ours and a desire not just to live comfortably, but to see others also live with some dignity.
Right.
Queue to go and vote for these thieves. Never again.
Kwesi, Agroni Yapon.
And I mean the MPP, just in case people are confused.
Right. Agroni Yapon. Mema Simakitu Ebina Waka Niakano. 30 seconds. They are already dealing with you online, so when you are done, you can go and read the comments. 30 seconds. Final comments. Let's go.
In 30 seconds, Ghana belongs to us all. Whatever one of the 6 major ethnic groups you belong to, Ghana belongs to us all. Let no man, nor his family, nor his tribe, nor his clan, sit down and think that because some other people worked hard to achieve some level of greatness and their forebears did not achieve that level, they must find ways of destroying the nation. For if we so do, this nation will be like the land of Achan. Achan stole from God Almighty, and because of him, God's children perished. Let us not entertain Achans amongst us. No matter where you come from, no matter your tribe, no matter your clan, no matter your party, anybody who will harm this nation must be driven out. May God's fire burn them and take them to hell. Amen.